All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good evening. My name is Chris Harvey. I'm a Public Information Officer here on the fire, representing CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4 and Unified Command. Thanks for coming tonight. I know some of you probably had some difficulties getting here due to road closures and traffic, so we appreciate you being here. We're going to start again tonight with just a brief word from Marla from Just Communities about our Spanish language translation tonight.
Estamos aquí para compartirles información oficial sobre el incendio. We are here offering the information about the fire. Solo un poco les quiero compartir unas guías sobre cómo trabajar con intérpretes. I'm just going to offer a few guidelines on how to work with interpreters. La más importante, the most important one, if you see me going like this, I need you to slow down, please. Si me ven hacer esta seña, necesito que hablen en un paso más moderado. If you see me make this sign, it means I need you to raise your voice. Esta seña quiere decir alcen la voz. Y this sign means speak one at a time. Y esta seña quiere decir hablen uno a la vez. Thank you for your collaboration. Thanks. Gracias por su colaboración.
Thank you, Marla. Also, thanks again to our ASL interpreter, Joe Black, who's been with us all week. Thank you, Joe. So we're going to keep the same format tonight. We'll have briefings from several of our subject matter experts, and then we will take some questions from the audience with the microphones, and then we will break up into smaller groups and get your questions answered one-on-one. Once again, we won't leave here tonight until you've all had your questions answered, so make sure you stick around. To start with, I know you'd like to get right into an ops briefing, so we're going to start with Deputy Incident Commander out of Unified Command, Steve Beach, and then we'll go straight into the ops briefing.
Good evening, thank you. And to reiterate, my name is Stephen Beach. I'm a Deputy Incident Commander for CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4 and one of the Unified Commanders for the Thomas incident. I'll start off with some current statistics, and they are as up-to-date as we can make them. As of this morning, the fire was sitting at 259,000 acres. And obviously, because of the increased fire activity today, we have added quite a bit of acreage to that, but we don't have an exact figure of additional acres at this point. The fire remains at 40% contained, and we have somewhere in the area of 8,300 firefighters assigned to the incident. And if our information is correct, that is the largest mobilization of firefighters of any wildland fire in California history. As you're probably aware, we did issue some additional evacuation orders today. And I want to remind you, and we spoke of this a few days ago, when we issue an evacuation order, we do not take that lightly. We also live in homes. As firefighters, we are homeowners. And we understand when we ask you to leave your home, it creates a significant impact on your life. We would not do that if we did not feel there was an imminent threat, and we want to make sure that we get out in front of it as far as we can. Tomorrow's day 14 of this fire, and we're still doing this. So understand that this fire is doing some things that are making it difficult for us. So please heed the warnings, ready, set, go, and then we will get you back into your homes as soon as we can guarantee it's safe for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Eric Peterson, Santa Barbara County Fire Chief. I'm going to give you a quick operational briefing of this fire. We don't have Chris Childers tonight because Chris Childers is very busy right now, although I just spoke to him up at Montecito Fire Station 1, and he gave me a pretty good download, and I will try to rehash what he told me to you today. So. All right. Somewhere there's a pointer here. Right there. Okay, so you remember Chris told you last time we met that we had made a lot of preparations for this wind event. We knew it was coming. We put a lot of crews, we put a lot of hand line down, we put a lot of fire retardant down, we cut a lot of line with hand crews and bulldozers to try to prepare for this thing in advance of this expected wind event. We knew that what has happened could happen, and it did. So essentially what's happened is the wind has blown through our retardant line, and despite our best holding efforts here on the front, just the huge amount of wind this morning either blew it around it, through it, or over it. And I guess the good news, although that has happened, we've had a huge amount of preparation to prepare for this wind event. We had 400 fire trucks in there. Get a real good situational awareness of where these homes were, where the protection was for them, where the water sources were, and that is why we have had really no injuries that we're aware of and fairly minor structure impacts despite this huge flame front that has come through here. So although we have a lot of fire out there and we're in the middle of a pretty severe firefight right now, I'm pretty proud of the work that's been done out there by our firefighters. They've done just amazing. I wish I had a tape of some of the things I saw today. People backing into driveways with fire all around, and people from out of town, people locally. It was really courageous stuff going on out there. Anyway, where we are right now is this fire has progressed along here and has squirted out past where this leading edge was. It's all the way up above Cold Springs Road, up above Westmont College right now. And I understand that it's working its way down into Parma Park right now. So it's made a significant run this way. It hasn't passed Gibraltar Road, but it is definitely headed in that direction. So on the top end, we have extreme fire conditions. We have wind gusts up there. At the corner, we were just up at the corner of Gibraltar right up here. There's a big sharp turn up there. Some of you may be aware of. It's where it's called the glass factory. Everybody shoots up there even though they're not supposed to. The fire was just getting ready to bump that area. The wind was going about 40 miles an hour with 50-mile-an-hour gusts, enough to knock you over when you walk out of your car. Down below, it's a better situation. The winds have calmed down, although I think they're picking up a lot now. Anyway, we've had a significant run, and what we're going to do now is we're going to continue to follow this fire as it works its way across over here. It's now burning into the old T fire down in here. You may remember Chris told you yesterday we were hoping that when it burnt into the newer fuels that now exist in the T fire, because they're younger than some of this older stuff that it's been burning in, that the fire behavior would slow down considerably, and that is happening. So that is an upside. However, there are not a lot of opportunities as it works its way across the top of the Camino to stop it before it gets to the bottom of 154, where I think we told you there is a fuel break that has been really cleaned up nice up there called the Windy Gap fuel break. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the fire is going to get that far. However, we are prepared for it if it does, and that's one of the contingencies is over here at the 154. Winds are expected to die down in the next couple of days, and we're hoping for the opportunity for that to give us the opportunity to get in here with crews, with a lot of air support, with a lot of helicopters and tankers, and dump a lot of fire retardant. Very similar to what we did during the Sherpa fire. If you remember, as the Sherpa fire was making its way east, the terrain in there was really unforgiving, and there was really no way to get in there to stop it other than with air and ground crews, and we were successful in doing that. So that is essentially what we're going to be trying to do now as we continue to fire this fire front along and protect structures, life, and property as it works its way west. And I think right now that is where I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Brown, and then we can come up and answer any questions about the operational side of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sheriff Bill Brown, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Sheriff's Office primary missions, twofold mission, I should say, which is to facilitate evacuations and then to provide security for those areas that have been evacuated. There are currently approximately 16,000 residents of the county who are under mandatory evacuation orders. And the mandatory evacuation areas, if you can reduce that map a little bit there. Yeah, it's in this purple colored area here. And you can see a dark line, which is the hard line between the mandatory and the warning areas. The mandatory evacuation orders for the county include all areas east of Highway 154, south of East Camino Cielo, west of Toro Canyon, and north of Highway 101 at Toro Canyon to South Salinas, then north of Alameda Padre Sierra, APS, and to Highway 192 west of Highway 154. The previous evacuation order for the area east of Toro Canyon to Casitas Pass Road, north of Highway 192 and south of East Camino Cielo also remains in effect. And if anyone is still in that area, they should leave it immediately, and no one should attempt to get into that area. There are about 34,000 people who are under voluntary evacuation warnings, are in areas that we've issued a voluntary evacuation warning. And they include the following areas. East of and including North San Marcos Road to Highway 154, north of Cathedral Oaks, and south of the intersection of Highway 154 and North San Marcos Road. That's near the top of the San Marcos Pass. Also south of Highway 192, west of Mission Canyon, Los Olivos, and Mission Street, north of State Street, and east of Nomad Village and San Vicente Mobile Home Park, including La Cumbre Road and Hope Avenue, south of State Street to Highway 101. Also east of Mission Street, Los Olivos, north of Highway 101, and south of Salinas and Alameda Padre Sierra, APS. And then lastly, in the Montecito area, south of 101 to the ocean, and east of the zoo and Ninos Drive to Eucalyptus Lane. Anyone in that area should be prepared to evacuate at a moment's notice. And I just want to emphasize again, the areas right along the edge of this current area, right along in here, this is Highway 154 coming down here, this is Highway 192. If you live in this area, or this area, and then if you can move the map towards me, and particularly if you are in the evacuation warning areas of Montecito just below this area along the ocean front, this is in particular the area that you should be thinking about making sure that you are packed up and ready to go at a moment's notice. Anywhere in this area and anywhere on the western edge along here. This fire, as you've heard, is still being wind-driven. It's unpredictable. It's moved fairly rapidly in certain areas. And if it were to move in a southerly direction and jump this line, it would be coming this way. So the next potential for evacuation areas is going to be along here. And if you're in those areas now, I encourage you very strongly to prepare to evacuate. And as we've been, these areas along the south side of Montecito, along the ocean, in the Mesa area here, into and including parts of Santa Barbara City, and then the parts west of Highway 154 up here along in the county unincorporated areas. If you live in those areas, again, you should have a plan to evacuate. That means you need to have your vehicle gassed up, ready to go. You need to have an understanding of where you and your family members are going to go, whether that's to a friend's, to a family member, to a hotel, or to the evacuation center, and I'll talk about that in a moment. You should have any of your irreplaceable documents, photographs, small heirloom items that you can rapidly move ready to go into your vehicle, and you should be prepared. And if you hear that there has been an extension and has been another evacuation order for those areas, you should vacate that area immediately. And no one should be going into those areas unnecessarily. If you are in a current evacuation zone or an adjacent evacuation warning area, and you wish to evacuate and you do not have any transportation, you can call a number that the county has set up. That number is 729-6538. Again, that's 805-729-6538. We have a group of sheriff's deputies with vehicles who will respond out and will provide you with transportation to the evacuation shelter, which is set up at the UCSB Recreational Center at 516 Ocean Avenue. Again, if you need that address to go there on your own, it is the UCSB Recreational Center, set up as a Red Cross Evacuation Center, and it's at 516 Ocean Avenue at UCSB. I sure can. The phone number again is 805-729-6538. 729-6538. I just want to add a couple of things that we are preparing for a sustained operation. We have activated mutual aid requests within our county. So we have law enforcement officers who are from areas of our North County. So you might see Santa Maria police officer. You might see someone from Guadalupe. We have other agencies like Lompoc PD, which are covering adjacent areas to their community that are covered by the sheriff, and then the sheriff's deputies in those areas are able to come down here and participate in our operations. In addition to that, we have the probation department. The district attorney investigators have all provided people. Our search and rescue team and the Ventura search and rescue team, as well as some Ventura County sheriff's deputies, are working on this fire at the moment, and we also have requested and received assistance from the California National Guard. And the primary effort of all of these law enforcement agencies is first and foremost the evacuations, and then secondly will be to provide security, both perimeter security to keep the roads closed for areas getting into the evacuated areas, and also to provide patrols within those areas for security purposes. We've had a challenging day today. There's been a lot of things that have happened. As you heard, we had a rollover accident that occurred last night with a tanker truck that ended up blocking the northbound Highway 101. This afternoon, we had a rollover accident of a smaller vehicle that blocked partially the southbound 101. And then, as if that wasn't enough, we've had another smaller fire breakout in Drum Canyon, which was attacked very quickly with air assets and with firefighters on the ground, and there's been excellent progress made and dealt with that. But this was really something that you, almost like a tabletop scenario that you would think would all these things happen at once, and sure enough, they did today. But I'm here to tell you that everybody did a magnificent job in terms of coordinating to get these evacuations to occur, to continue to keep those areas secure, to provide transportation to people that needed it. And again, I want to just shout out to the support staff who are there in our Emergency Operations Center and throughout the public safety agencies and at the fire base camp and at the Incident Command Center. All of the people who behind the scenes are responsible for supporting and helping the firefighters and the law enforcement officers who are on the front lines. And lastly, I want to thank the people of Santa Barbara County once again for your cooperation. I want to reemphasize what was said earlier, that we don't take these evacuation orders lightly. If there is a decision made that we're moving to a mandatory evacuation area, please cooperate and immediately evacuate that area. Do not stay in there. It is not safe to do that. You imperil yourself, and you also potentially impede emergency personnel who need to move around in those areas as well. So, again, thank you for the tremendous support that we've received, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the days to come. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Ponce, the Santa Barbara, California Highway Patrol Captain. Like Sheriff Brown said, we did have quite a day today and had the 101 shut down for quite a while from last night into this afternoon at Turnpike on the northbound side. But we are very happy to report that the number 2 and 3 lanes are now open. The number 1 lane will remain closed to allow Caltrans to clean up the gasoline spill. Also, due to that closure and the evacuations, we did decide to shut down the northbound 101 at Seacliff in Ventura County to allow for the expeditious movement of Santa Barbara residents out of the mandatory evacuation zones. So we thank you for your great patience in that closure. As soon as we deemed it was no longer necessary, we opened up the freeway there at Seacliff. Also, the 154 is closed from Cathedral Oaks all the way up to the 246 indefinitely at this time. This will help facilitate movement of fire personnel and equipment, and also for their air operations fighting this fire. It will be open to residents with proper identification who do not live in mandatory evacuation zones. The CHP is currently manning 21 fixed post locations. We are also shut down 14 off-ramps on the northbound and southbound sides of the 101, 14 total, 7 in each direction. So we just ask for your continued patience with our officers and personnel at these closures. And we just thank all the first responders for everything they're doing out there, our partners in the Sheriff's Department. You know, rest assured, we have CHP personnel from San Luis Obispo all the way down to Moore Park responding to this incident that are assisting here in Santa Barbara. So rest assured, we have enough personnel to keep your properties safe from any looters, and we'll be patrolling the area with the Sheriff's Department. We just thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Ben Ellenberger with the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District. This was the air quality we saw today. In the northern part of the county and then on through Goleta, it was good to moderate, so it's better than it had been. It remained unhealthy in Santa Barbara and east into Carpinteria. Tomorrow, what we're expecting as the fire progresses and the wind shifts, it'll be unhealthy all across the south coast, even into Goleta, but remain good to moderate in the northern parts of the county. If you're in an area where the air quality is unhealthy for sensitive groups or unhealthy, we really recommend that you minimize your exposure to it. You can stay inside, keep your doors, your windows shut. If you have to go outside, we really recommend that you use an N95 mask and look at the instructions on the mask carefully and make sure you're putting it on properly, that you have a good tight fit, and that both straps are around the back of your head so it stays snug and works effectively. Another technique you can use to minimize your exposure is you can set up a clean room in your house. If you're feeling particularly affected, you can get a HEPA filter, which is a high efficiency particle filter. Set that up in a room. Your bedroom's a really good option, and you can run that filter continuously and especially through the night, and it'll reduce your exposure to particulates. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Masterson with Southern California Edison. As you all know, due to the high winds and increased Thomas Fire activity, customers in the Montecito area have experienced service interruptions today. As of 3 o'clock p.m., there are currently 1,255 customers without power in that area. As the Thomas Fire continues to threaten transmission lines serving this area, Edison is asking that customers significantly reduce their power consumption to ease potential strain on the local system. Please turn off any holiday lights and decorations, turn off any unnecessary equipment and appliances, and please also remember to turn off the lights when you leave a room. Thanks.
Good evening. Kimberly Coley, Executive Director for your local Red Cross. I just want to provide an update on our shelter locations since our evacuation orders have expanded in the area. As Sheriff Brown alluded to, we are focused here in Santa Barbara County as out of our shelter out at UCSB in the Recreation Center. I was there earlier. We had 61 clients last night. And at noon, we had 120, and folks are showing up by the minute. So I'm looking forward to having a full house there this evening, but encourage folks to join us there. It's a beautiful facility. We have 3 hot meals a day, snacks, water, and a variety of health services available as well, from disaster mental health and spiritual care counseling. So if you're evacuating north, please join us at UCSB in the Recreation Center. If you are heading south, we do still have our Ventura County Fairgrounds shelter in operation. Last night we had 222 clients at that facility. So please take the evacuation order seriously and join us. We have volunteers from all over the country here on the ground ready to take care of our friends and neighbors locally. We do have plenty of capacity at all of these facilities, and if conditions were to change, we also have shelter locations, of course, always on standby. So please know that we are prepared to welcome as many evacuees as we need, and we're going to take as good a care as we can of our clients, and we'll be here as long as we're needed. We have had a lot of questions just about pets, and pets are welcome at both of the facilities. So please know that we're partnering as well with agencies in town to provide pet food and carriers and that sort of thing. So if you really do have to get out, just grab your pet, bring them with you. They can certainly be with you in the shelters. I'll be around, of course, afterwards for questions. If you're interested in helping, of course, we are looking for volunteers, so please sign up online. And just thank you so much for advocating for the Red Cross and for all the good work that they're doing to take care of friends and neighbors both here and in Ventura County. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to now move into answering some questions for you. Before we start that, I just want to let the folks know who may be watching online on one of the social media streaming platforms, either through Santa Barbara County or through the Ventura County Fire Department feed. Please stay on and continue to watch. We will have the Santa Barbara County Fire Chief available to answer questions that come to us through that feed. So please stay on, and we'll go ahead and begin to take some questions from the audience. And we're going to start in this section here, and we'll take some questions if you have any. Sir in the back. Sheriff, do you want to answer that?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was speaking to my undersheriff there, and I missed the question. Can you say it again, please? What was the question?
For us that are evac from the Mission Canyon area going on 7 days tomorrow, is there any potential timetable when you see that evac order being lifted?
Yeah, I'm afraid I cannot answer that right now. It's all dependent really upon what happens with the wind and with the direction that the fire takes and the progress that the firefighters can make in the next few days. But I would anticipate that it's going to be at least several more days. So you should plan accordingly, I would think. Thank you.
Any more in this section here?
Question over here.
I have another question sort of along those lines. On the east side, starting in Carpinteria, the evacuation areas that are still in force, do you see a timetable when you will be moving from east to west and maybe open up some of those?
I would just tell you that the question was Carpinteria and the other end of the evacuation area. Do we see a timetable for changing those orders and repopulating those areas? And the answer would really have to be the same. A lot just depends on what's going to happen today, tonight, in the next several days, what course, what direction this fire takes. And I can't answer that. I don't think the fire service people can answer it either.
And speaking to that, just in general, I think with the weather conditions expected to continue, I don't think we're really going to be answered any questions tonight specifically about repopulation on the Santa Barbara County side. There are some questions that are areas on the Ventura County side that will possibly be repopulating, but these are areas of the fire where the very cold and the line has been established and there's no danger of a reignition in that area. So repopulation questions on the Santa Barbara County side, I don't think we're going to answer tonight if we could just hold off on asking those. Thank you. Sir, down here in the front, let's get a microphone to you real quick. There's one heading your way.
Have the winds had any effect on the areas that have already been burned? Toro Canyon west into Sheffield and other areas?
The question was, have the winds had any effect on the areas that have already been burnt from Toro Canyon west? And the answer is no, not really. If they've been burnt, it's pretty much already gone through there.
Let's take one more from this section here in the back. And again, we will answer all your questions. Before you go, we'll just be breaking up into a one-on-one.
Hi, I lived in Goleta for quite a long time out by Fairview Shopping Center. This is the first fire where I'm looking to the south and getting smoke in the Fairview area. Very first one. So is there something unique about the weather and the wind that is causing that smoke to blow into Goleta? Usually you could just look down south and it would stay, you know?
We've had our fire behavior analyst here nearly every night to answer these types of questions. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight from the Ventura County Fire Department. Chief, if you'd like to speak to that.
I think really the question was, why is there so much smoke visible from Goleta, correct? That was basically the question. Fairview. And really the answer is the sheer size of this fire. It's just a huge, huge fire. And the volume of material burnt is just generating so much smoke that it's able to just provide just a huge quantity of smoke that's visible from all over the front country. So.
All right, let's take some questions from the center section here. Anybody in the center section have a question? Down here in front, sir, you'll be next. And then we have another question, a woman in the green shirt back here.
I live in the warning zone 12,
and we're contemplating going out to the UCSB Center. If I did that, I would be going in a pickup truck that would be loaded with personal belongings, some related to my work and some just things we don't want to lose. What are my chances of that surviving more than 1 hour out at UCSB? Am I going to be in a big parking lot that's unattended, or what's the skinny on that?
Sheriff, can you speak to that?
The parking lot that is adjacent to the recreation center is not, to my knowledge at least, it's not attended at this point. So it would be in an unattended parking lot across the street and fairly close to that area. There's a lot of activity going on in that area, but I don't know that we could, guarantee you that would be a safe thing to do. It might be a better bet to see if you have a friend or relative or somewhere that you could take your valuables and belongings and store them out of this immediate fire area, and then perhaps consider going to the shelter.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the question is about the possibility of the fire going west of the 154. I know you've all said 154 is like a line in the sand. So it's a hypothetical question, but if it goes that far, then what? Have you...
Well, then we're going to keep. The question was, what happens if the fire continues to go west of Highway 154? And based on what this fire's done, we can't rule anything out. But we are not anticipating that. But generally speaking, we will continue to explore opportunities to hold the fire, much like we're doing now. Right now we're looking at the fuel breaks that are next in line, and as this thing presumably proceeded down the Camino, we would continue to look for areas of opportunity to hold it, slow it down, and then weather permitting, we can get in there and clean it up and put it out. So that's the general plan.
Hello. The evacuation notices are wonderful. They gave all the different streets in north and south and east and west. So then we scrambled online to find something that reflected the closures. What map source would you recommend that would be as immediate as the written announcements?
The question was what map source online is best to get the evacuation and evacuation warning information. And there's an interactive evacuation map that is at the County of Santa Barbara's website. It's countyofsb.org. If you go on there, you can click on to a page on the Thomas Fire, and if you go on to that page, it will have a link to an evacuation map, and you can actually put your address into a little magnifying glass search icon and click the button, and it'll let you know where that address is, whether it's in an evacuation area, a warning area, or not in the area.
Can you pull that website up? No. We had another question. On this side? And then a gentleman in the red, and you'll be next, and then we'll move to the next section, ma'am.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question? I think uncovering the pools is a good idea. If we need access to that water, it'd be handy to have it uncovered. As far as I would lock your doors, I think that's a good idea. If we need to make entry in there, we'll figure out how to get in there.
All the way in the back with the red, sir.
Thank you. In the evacuation warning area below the 192, I think it's designated as SBC 25. Between La Cumbre and North Hope, I have family right there. What's the likelihood of that evacuation, mandatory evacuation, spreading into that zone? overnight or through the next couple of days?
I think I can answer just by saying, again, anything related to evacuations on this side at this point is dependent on wind and weather, unfortunately. Make sure that you're got your phone on and charged and that you're able to receive the alerts that you've been receiving about evacuations. Is there more to it, Sheriff?
And again, I just want to emphasize, if you or some of your loved ones are in that area that is currently a warning area and is adjacent to the evacuation area, you need to be ready, they need to be ready to go at a moment's notice. The reality is that if we expand the evacuation area, which we certainly have the potential for that to happen, and it could happen before the day is out. If that happens, the likely areas that are going to be changed to mandatory evacuation areas are those light green areas here that are adjacent to the evacuation areas now. So if you're there or if your people are there, you should be packed up and ready to go at a moment's notice.
Let's move over to this section. We'll take a couple questions, and then we'll move into our face-to-face. Sir, there's a microphone coming towards you right now.
Could you trace on this map where the present location of the head of the fire is?
Sorry about that. Okay, sir, where did the question come from? Raise your hand. Okay. Are you familiar with where Montecito Station 2 is?
Yes.
Okay. So if you followed that Hot Springs Road all the way up to East Mountain Road, the fire is currently about a quarter a mile and a half, or to a half a mile west of that, above Westmont College, and my understanding is also working its way down into Parma Park, although this is a really fluid situation, and Paul Casey is giving me updated information. Oh, good. Okay, we've had it confirmed it's not in Parma Park. So when I left there about an hour ago, it was East Mountain Drive, about a quarter of a mile west, working its way down westward. Does that help you?
One more from this section, please. Anybody? Right behind him.
Okay, great. So we know that we have the burn scars over in T-Fire, and it's right now there. I would hope that would help diminish it somewhat. But my other question is, how many houses so far in Santa Barbara County have burnt?
I don't have the latest information on how many houses in Santa Barbara County. There has been some impact to structures with this morning's events, and we have damage assessment teams out there getting good information, but I don't want to give you poor information. So I don't have that number right now.
All right, thank you, Chief. So before we break up into our groups, I want to address one question that continues to arise. We were asked it here last night, and we continue to get asked this question in the field, and that's the question about marking tape. A lot of your neighborhoods, you may go down the street and you'll see a number of homes that have pink flagging tape or different colors or stripes, and a lot of homes now have a piece of paper on a mailbox or a fence out front. This is just a type of a triage system that our fire crews are using to mark ingress and egress routes, as well as hazards, swimming pools that are in backyards that may contain water, and things of that nature. So you may see a lot of that flagging in your neighborhood. That's what that's about. So thanks for coming tonight. We really appreciate you being here. Again, if you have further questions, come down front here or meet one of our PIOs in the lobby. We can talk to you in front of a map. Thank you.